Everybody, it's Q&A time, and it's all about breakups. Shocker. Okay, so I've got a few questions for you. The fifth one is my favorite. So let's get right into it, right? Let's get right into it. Mike, what steps do I take to get to the place where you are comfortable about letting go or losing them forever? I'm not sure. I should really pre-read these. But I think what you're asking here is, how do I get to a place where you're comfortable about letting go and potentially losing them forever? This is what I'm gathering from this question. Look, how do you get to a place? Endings they're a milestone, right? It's about connecting and embracing the truth, embracing and accepting what has transpired. It's how do you get to a place where you're going to get comfortable? It doesn't come easy. It definitely comes with time. It definitely comes with doing the proper work in that time, not just allowing time to pass, but it's really connecting to the truth, accepting what transpired. Now, what is acceptance? Acceptance doesn't mean that if they cheated on you, you accept the fact that they cheated on you and you forgive them and you move on. But accepting that it happened. And this level of acceptance doesn't keep you in that state of limbo, right? That state of limbo of wanting to hang on to something and where it doesn't allow you to get to a different place, to get to a place where you're able to move on from this uncomfortable place that you're referring to in this question. Now, by staying in that limbo state, what is the cost of staying in that limbo state? It's costing you the inevitable, right? The inevitable is that you're going to, at some point, especially if that person's moved on, for you to get to a comfortable place, you need to be able to get to that comfortable place by accepting the fact that the relationship is over. Accept the fact that you need to connect to the truth, whatever that truth may be, that they weren't available to you, that you weren't available to them, that you cheated on them, they cheated on you, and all of those things that are associated with a relationship and relationship struggles. And that's what it boils down to, is accepting the fact that the relationship is done. And that's when the journey begins, because otherwise you're just sitting in limbo. You're waiting for them to show back up again, or maybe something's going to happen and hanging on to something that may never come. So if this resonates, guys, feel free to chime in or even ask a question during this Q&A. I mean, I've got a few queued up, but I'm happy to take on some questions as well. Okay, we're all here to learn from each other. All right. So I hope that helps. Yeah, that's a great point. We hang on to others hoping they would change. Yeah, I actually have a video. If you scroll back into some of my other videos, is one of the reasons why you can't get over your ex is that we hope that they're going to change. And the reality is, people are not going to change for you. They're going to change because they want to change, because they want to do the work, right? And so us waiting for them, that's a great point. Thanks for that. Grace is, we hope that they're going to change, and they're not. And then we're just sitting around in this kind of limbo state. And, we want to try to get so comfortable with, with letting go. It's never really comfortable letting go. It just gets easier and easier as you begin to do the work, right? There's a few things that I can suggest, which at the end of the Q&A, I'm going to suggest. Okay? Cool. Awesome. I want to say hi to some peeps. Okay. Q2. How do I get unstuck from this sadness? And I get that. It's horrible. After 4 months of progress, I should really pre-read these. How do you get unstuck from the sadness? After 4 months of progress, it doesn't seem like it's enough. Yeah, so this is the concern that I always have, is we associate time with healing. We think, it's been 4 months, I should be over them. It's been 6 months, I should not be thinking about them. I should be over it by now. I should, and we should all over ourselves. And so I think the first thing right off the cuff that comes to me when you ask this question is what does unstuck look like? I think we need to identify. You need to identify to what the unstuck is. And I don't have a name for this, but let's call you Cassandra with a K for whatever reason. You need to identify what unstuckness means to you. Is it holding you back from something? Is it because you want to stay in that situation? You know, it's so often we self-sabotage and we get so caught up in our stories that it's so difficult to us to move on because we connect back to these stories. And we often become like infatuated with telling the story too, right? We tell our friends, oh, this happened and that happened. I don't know what's going on. And I wish blah, blah, blah. And she did this and she did that. And so we stay in this rut. So 4 months, 6 months, some people stay in this state for years. And I've worked with people where they've, 18 months later or almost 2 years later, still hung on to this same state of stuckness that I've been asked about is, what is the progress? You have to ask yourself, what is that stuckness, or what did you staying in that place mean to you? How does that stuckness hold you back from potentially being a better version of you? Staying stuck maybe means that you're staying in that comfortable zone where you don't want to make progress. Yeah, there you go, Chris. That's excellent. Thank you so much, because you get comfortable, right? Anybody else chime in? Why would we want to stay in that particular place? Why would we want to stay in that particular place? It's a horrible place to stay. We don't do it on purpose. Of course, a lot of love and compassion to Cassandra with a K. But that's the reality of the situation is we need to tap into why do we stay in a comfortable place? How do we get unstuck is based on what does the stuckness mean to us? So we need to connect to some truth, right? This is part of the introspective work, right? Part of the introspective work. And yes, it does take time. What does thriving mean to you? Ask yourself that question as well. If thriving is the opposite of unstuck, what does thrive mean and what does it look like? What do you need to do? Who do you need to be in order to feel that, right? Maybe just getting out of bed is enough, right? For some of us, just getting out of bed is enough. So I hope that helps a little bit. Not having a lot of context sometimes makes it difficult with these Q&As, right? 3. I have realized I have a huge problem giving. How do I know where my boundaries are? Okay. Well, obviously you understand about boundaries because you've asked about it. So the question is, I have a huge problem giving. So this may or may not be breakup related. Maybe you are broken up and, you've split with somebody and you've realized that you were giving too much. A lot of the introspective work that I teach with my clients, as well as the upcoming course, Mending Your Broken Heart, that's coming out next month, is we tap into where you've abandoned yourself. Right? And and there's a whole module actually on boundaries. And so it's so often how, I'm just going to put this phone down. It's so often how we have these boundaries that we're able to tap, once we connect to these boundaries, what they mean, how they protect us. So what boundaries do is they protect us from somebody else. So overgiving, saying yes when we mean no, trying to people please, that's a big one, right? A big one is people pleasing is also someone that's not created a lot of healthy boundaries, or potentially a sign that they're afraid of what it makes it mean about them when they say no to someone. And so how do you stop giving, or how do you limit giving? Is really tapping into what's important to you, tapping into those boundaries, right? Tapping into what are your boundaries. First of all, you need to understand them, how they work for you, and be able to communicate a boundary successfully to somebody by saying, hey, I'm really tapped out right now. My plate is full. If it's an example of, anything in life or even at work, is I'm really tapped out. I'm really full right now. I don't have the cycles right now. I don't have the emotional energy, to be able to do X. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to give a reason. You don't have to say, oh, I can't right now because blah, blah, blah. Because that's the beauty of boundaries. They protect you from the other person. And what is beautiful about this is a very sure sign of loving yourself is being able to communicate that boundary, but also how they respond. Because some people are like, oh shit, well then, okay, if you're too busy, fine, I'll blah, 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 I'll find somebody else. It's already a sign of self-love. You communicating the boundary and how they respond is not a direct representation of your worth. Know what I'm saying? We abandon ourselves in order to not to be the bad person for leaving the other when we know we're not happy, but trying to make the other happy. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks for that. And so the question, there's a question is I have a huge problem giving. Giving is not a huge problem. It's overgiving and stepping on yourself. That's a huge problem. So boundaries, actually I have a free workbook. If you go to mikefinelli.com/self-care, so Mike Finelli, I'll put it in the comments a little bit later. Self-care, /self-care is I have a boundaries workbook. You work through all of the boundaries, what they are, what they mean to you, how you create boundaries with people. And most importantly, I have one awesome statement where you can communicate your boundaries from a place of empowerment. So again, the problem here that you're potentially having is not that you have a problem, huge problem giving. It's you have a huge problem potentially over giving. I don't know for sure, but my intuition says that's probably the case. Question 4, numero 4. How do I stop all communication? I'm afraid of losing his friendship. Every time I speak, I feel like I'm taking a step backwards. Yeah, so this is a good one. This is a good one. So this is definitely about breakup. So the question was, how do I stop all communication? One of the very first things that I talk about in Mending My Broken Heart, of course, is stopping all communication. Why is this important? Every time that you speak to, communicate with, check their story, all the social media stuff, you're putting yourself backwards. Every time I speak, I feel like I'm taking a step backward. And that's exactly what you're communicating here, right? You have to stop. You must stop communication. I always make this recommendation to all of my clients as well, is that I actually have a video as well. If you look at my IGTV, is why do we why do we want to be friends with our ex? What's the point of that? There's a time and place for that. Okay. I want to make sure I acknowledge that early because people say, oh yeah, I've been friends with my ex for 15 years because we share kids and all of that stuff. And I get that. What I'm referring to is if you're saying to me based on this question that every time I speak, I'm taking a step back means that you're not finished your healing journey yet. You haven't arrived at that place of contentment. You haven't arrived at that place that when you communicate with this person, it's with ease and grace. If you feel like you're taking a step back, means that it's too early. So what I always recommend to people is take 60 days, 90 days to start with, then check back. If that energy is still there, then it's time to add another 60 days or 90 days if you wish that you want to remain friends. Hey, look, to be honest, I'll be frank. Actually, I'm Mike, but I'll be frank right now, is that I'm not a big, huge fan of staying friends with my exes. I don't know. That's just me, right? Everybody has a different thing. It's important to make sure that you're not somehow subconsciously communicating or wanting to remain friends with somebody so early for selfish reasons, or maybe out of fear, or not in a loving way. Okay, I think that's important to communicate. So honor and set, going back to what I just said on question number 3 about boundaries, okay, is communicating a boundary that it is not emotionally safe for you right now to communicate. And you need to do that as well. Okay. And then check in 6 months from now, a year from now, you may end up being friends. But through the journey, as I run through the journey with my clients, is You got to stop communicating. You must make yourself a priority. All right, cool. All right, number 5. Actually, I think I'll do number 5 last because this is a pretty interesting one. Next one. What the heck do I do with all of his stuff? No, wait. What the heck do I do with all of this stuff? What the heck do I do? I should really pre-read these, as I said before. What do I do with all of her stuff? Everything reminds me of her. Get rid of it. Why do you still have it? I mean, it may be like a really simplistic answer, but there's a simplistic solution. Give it away. There's lots of people that need things, right? So that's a very simple one, is rid of it. You don't need that constant reminder. If you truly want to heal on, it's to take your power back and get rid of the pictures, get rid of the things, move if you have to. Move if you have to, if it's available to you. Whatever it takes to make yourself a priority to heal from the relationship. Okay? I'm sure there's places where they'll accept stuff, right? Okay, cool. Question number 5, which is now turned to number 6. My ex and I were together for 3 years, but wanted 2 different types of relationships. That's already a big red, yellow flag for me right there. He wanted open and I wanted monogamous. We both tried to become different for the other, but we couldn't. No shocker there. It created a lot of unsafety. It was so painful. Ultimately, we broke up because he wants love. He wants love that allows for casual encounters and other types of love. And I hate it. I'm so judgmental that he would choose this over us. It feels so cheap and unsafe to me. Now I'm afraid. I'm afraid that everyone will want to be open and uncommitted. That I choose him because I don't deserve someone who gives me all that I want. Please help. Yeah, so this is a tough one, right? But also simple. One of the hardest things that we have is communicating what we want. And the reason for that could potentially be is that we're either unsure of what we want or we're afraid to stick our neck out and tell people what it is that we want because we're afraid of what the answer is going to be. And the first things first is to, obviously in this particular case, is what is your relationship vision? What is your vision of a healthy relationship, of a expansive, growth-oriented relationship? What feels good to you? What kind of relationship do you want? Once you tap into that, then you're going to be, first of all, you're going to be in a place of knowing exactly what it is that you want, what you don't want, what you won't tolerate, and all the things. But also you're going to be able to connect to the fact that when you do meet someone like this particular person right here, is that you know exactly what you want and say, hey, I'm looking for a monogamous relationship. And they'll say, oh, I don't want a monogamous relationship. I want an open relationship. And you're going to be like, oh, that's not what I want. And then there is no relationship. Because 3 years later, you try to morph, you try to chameleon, you try to be somebody else. And it's exactly what happens is you now have become someone else. You've likely become what feels like, I'm so judgmental. So now you have some regret for being in something that you wanted to be in. Look, I'll tell you a story. I dated someone that was, so I come from a very traditional Italian background. Monogamy is my thing. I like to experiment and all that fun stuff is, but it's not my thing. I like monogamous. It's cool. It's the way I've always operated. I grew up with that dynamic and I like it. It's good. It works. That's for most people, right? Everyone has different strokes for different folks, right? And I remember dating a woman that was bisexual and was into kind of these group situations. I thought that's exactly what I wanted because I wanted to experience that. I really like this woman. And so what I did in the process, I abandoned myself. I took what I valued in relationships and put it in the back burner. And then of course what happens, same thing as this person right here, is I felt judgmental. I abandoned myself. I chose the relationship over me. It was not my ideal relationship. And I kept hanging on to that. And guess what happened to it? It is no longer. So, question. Did I choose him because I don't deserve someone who gives me all I want? I honestly don't believe that you know what you want. And I might be judgmental and, I have a limited things to work with. But if you really connected to what it is that you want, your ideal relationship, then you would be able to decipher and filter through the people that are not in alignment. This is like dating 101, which I guess I'll probably create a course for next year, is you meet someone and you say, hey, what emotional baggage have you not processed? May not be the first question. Maybe the third one is, hey, you're cool. Like, what kind of relationship are you looking for? This is really simplistic. Once you know what it is that you want, what you value, what kind of relationship that you want. And so if you're having a hard time releasing this relationship, does any of this feel familiar for anyone? I'm sure me and this person and are not the only ones that have experienced something similar. So, potentially you're having a hard time moving on from this, right? I guess if you wrote just recently, you're probably in the midst of it, right? You're feeling like, I don't deserve someone who gives me all I want. Get clear on what you want. And if you're having a hard time moving on from this, have a look at my Love Truth workbook. Okay, go to MikeFinelli.com/Love Truth, or click on the bio if this is on Instagram, but I'll be putting this on other platforms. And in that exercise, you're going to learn one truth about your past relationship, about that. There's an exercise specifically for that, right? Where you tap into what your ideal relationship is. And I won't give the rest away because it's awesome. So I feel for you. I get it. A part of me feels this hate. But the hate may not be necessarily related to the fact that, you weren't able to keep a relationship together. The hate stems from potentially the internal processing of the fact that, I abandoned myself to go into something that was not in alignment. I don't want my guy to sleep with other women, casual encounters. I don't want that. So it's important to tie into what it is that you want in a relationship so you can filter through all the shit early. So it's after 3 dates, not after 3 years. Okay? Awesome. That's all the questions that I have. If anybody else has questions, feel free to ask them. This is a great time. If not, I may have something. I don't. That's all I have. Those are all the questions. Hey guys, I appreciate you guys being on here. It's always fun. If you have any questions, go to MikeFinelli.com/ask Mike. I know I've got so many of these links right here, right? If you have any specific questions, or just send me a DM. I'm still accepting DMs. I roll that way. I'm cool with that until I can't anymore, and then I don't roll that way. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.